introduce. I'm Linda Coyle, and I am an educator in the public schools. And we have Susan Bedingfield here, who is a homeschool mother, and author of, Susan, help me out.
Hi, the memoir is called Where's Katie? And I'm also a tutor of students with dyslexia. My daughter Katie had dyslexia. So
Great. And Trisha Cook, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Trisha Cook. I have Cook's Independent Tutoring, Coaching, and Consulting, and I'm the developer of MyElbert.
And we also have Laurel here, who is the voice of wisdom. She gets us. And hopefully she'll chime in when she feels the need to. We appreciate her ability to summarize and add to our discussion. So anyway, we have come together as women because we have a common goal, and that goal is to inform parents, inform educators, inform students that being different is good. And I came to know Trish last year around this time when I was in a special ed group, and I was really looking to figure out a way to best address my needs during a pandemic. And I thought that I was going to have to create a whole platform to help my kids. And I too was feeling the same way. I was feeling like, oh my goodness, these kids need more than just academics. I need to address the whole child. Like, what am I going to do? And when I tell you, I really felt it was an appointment by God. It was like she popped into the group right at that time. And so she so lovingly shared MyElbert, which is a platform that addresses the whole child. So we started the school year off with doing some formal assessments and some checklists that help us understand the kids' strengths and weaknesses and what their interests were. And then we realized, you know what, we're definitely going to do a lot of activity-based learning, which has been pushed off just a little bit because we spent a lot of time team building. And I'd like to speak to that for a second. Because we did that, like I mentioned earlier, I was out due to COVID symptoms, and the people that stepped in my shoes were like, these kids are amazing. They knew what to do. And it was just a pleasure to teach your class. So I know for a fact, teaching a special needs class, they can fall apart when their teacher isn't there, but they didn't. So I know that the foundation and the team building was just, it's so important in the beginning of the year, and not to rush into teaching the academic part.
Can I speak on that for a second?
Yeah, the trust building is so important.
Yeah, being neurodivergent, being part of my neurodiversity itself, I'm just so sensitive. I'm so sensitive the way people look at me, speak to me, what they say, if I pick up on the language in any case. But I'm more looking at their mannerisms, their gestures. And I always cared so much for being a people pleaser and doing well. And so I had, over the years of my academics not being good to par, of meeting those expectations to please the teacher, my parents, myself, that's why MyElbert was important, again, at looking at their gifts and strengths and interests and that team building, because that's what I would have wanted when I was young. I wouldn't have wanted to say, hi class, welcome. Here, let's start on writing your letters. Let's start writing an essay. That just creates more anxiousness. But if I'd have felt safe, secure, it would have made a whole world of difference, I think. I just wanted to.
And so it really is. It's such a missing link in the public schools. And so when we have someone like Susan, who I know that we're not supposed to be envious of one another, but I am envious of Susan because she made that decision for her family that that's what was going to be best. And even though there were some trials and tribulations along the way, she listened to her heart and had that mindset that we were going to work together as a family and we're a team, and got to teach her children what she knew they needed to be taught. She followed a curriculum, but she also knew that, there was a lot of time, like in the public school system. I really believe that there's a lot of time that is wasted. And a lot of times we feel like we're in this box and we have to listen to what administration is saying, and that you should be on this part of the curriculum at this time. Well, I'm very blessed in that I'm in a self-contained classroom, and I have the privilege of being able to listen to my students and feel what the class, what's going on in the class right at that moment in that time. And so super blessed that I could start my school year off that way with the team building. But right before winter break, I really started to notice some of the, what's the word I'm looking for? Like the kids were starting to fall off a little bit. They were starting to look extra tired. They were, the initial part of the school year and the excitement of us being together was starting to fall by the wayside. And so I thought, let me dig in here and see what we can do. So I asked simply, who's drinking water? What time are you going to bed? And so that got us to do a little bit of research on how much sleep do we need. And they uncovered that, that age group, that you need at least, now I'm forgetting, I think 9, 10, 11 hours of sleep. What time should you be going to bed? What
Probably
time
about
do you
10.
go to bed?
I've done that study a few times. Probably about 10.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're not. And how much water should we drink? And so we did this whole activity, a whole math lesson on capacity, and we had the water pitcher, and my co-teachers and I, we invested in buying them really nice cups with solid straws, so that I am responsible, thank goodness, for a dishwasher. I have to take it home and wash them for them. So I have control of these cups that they have on their desk. And there's a water pitcher that when it gets low, your job is to go fill it up in our handy dandy filtering system down below. And we're drinking how many cups? 4 16-ounce cups is what our brains need. Right? Yes, you're going to be running to the bathroom constantly, but your body will get used to it. So anyway, we took that on right before winter break. But what we're realizing is that, so we have the team building and they feel safe. But guess what? We're nodding off because the parents work 2 jobs. And so I come to realization that, yeah, I have a school to home connection with my parents, but it's not good enough. I need a way to be able to invite them in more and not condemn them for the fact that your child has shared with me that he goes home and goes to sleep. And then he wakes up late, 7, 8 o'clock at night, and eats chicken nuggets. And then from there, he stays up until 3 o'clock in the morning gaming. Then he lays his little head down, and then you're waking him up. No matter what you're getting, this kid has not missed a day of school. Like he never misses a day of school, but he's there physically, but not mentally. He's nodding off. He can't retain.
What age are these kids that you work with?
So I'm, thank you for asking. I teach 5th through 8th grade. So 10 through 15. Yeah. So this particular boy is a 5th grader.
Doesn't it sound like she's treating it like a homeschool? Like I've heard homeschool parents say over and over. I noticed I did reflective of our day. I noticed this wasn't working. Let me reassess, see what I could do different. That sounds like a lot like what I imagined Susan had done. I don't imagine her following a curriculum as much as getting training on a particular method and then integrating and doing substituting with different ideas of things that she felt were best for her daughter's interest and her,
It was,
her strengths.
yes. Honestly, it was both. I did follow an explicit method and incorporate it into the curriculum that we had for specific subjects.
Okay.
And then I also developed my own lesson plans to reteach in the way that Katie needed to be taught, to reteach the foundations of phonics and reading, decoding, encoding based on the multisensory.
And you also did project work. I imagine like she's saying she saw the need for was water and they did all the math problems to figure out and research.
Right. And that's really exciting. It reminds me of what we did in our home. We had a good citizens chart on our, for each girl, and I have 4 daughters. And so, some of the things that in the students that we work with that have special ways that they need to be taught or individual and unique, really everyone does. But my daughter with dyslexia, she wasn't the only one who needed to take responsibility and learn to advocate for herself. They all needed that. And so we had a good citizens chart. And so in your house, you have common spaces and you also have personal spaces, and you have chores that you do that everyone benefits from if you do them. And then you have responsibilities that are personal. And so this good citizens chart incorporated.
Oh, I love that, Susan. And so I'm sure within that you're teaching the executive skills that we need to function, as independent people in the world.
Right. It reminds me of what you're doing in your classroom, which is really neat because you're teaching the students that they really can see their own personal needs and how to take responsibility for them so that they can show their very best work. So it's not just the parent that's saying, you need to go to bed. The child is learning. I need to get some sleep. I need to drink water. I need this for myself. I see that it matters, and I need to sit in the front of the classroom, or I need more time on this test.
It's self-awareness, right? Like they're
You're
coming into their own now. It's not like I'm telling you.
Right.
What are you noticing about yourself?
Right. I'm not depending on my mother to fight for me and to talk to my teacher. I'm also the one saying, hey, Miss Linda, I need to have a little extra time on this, or could you please allow me to step out in the hallway so that I can read this out loud? And I would
love for them to get to that point.
Right. You're getting them ready for those upper ages, and even you're looking ahead to, college work because there's so much independence that's needed there, because in colleges, they've got to have learned by then, hey, I've got to be able to speak for myself, because they literally won't talk to my parents. They have to legally, the student has to.
Yeah.
Can I talk about that for 1 second, please?
Yes, sure.
Please. So just imagine I'm getting ready to graduate with my early childhood education degree. I write a paper because of my dysgraphia, which was totally disorganized, I imagine, even with meeting her once to help me organize it. She had my letter from the LD department. I forget the name of it because I'm not thinking of it right now. But and she totally says, if I can help it, you'll never graduate. That's crazy, right? So so I went to the counselor and I reworked my schedule, and we figured out I had enough hours to still graduate with not passing that class. Believe it or not, I don't know how I think it's God, but so I advocated for myself to go find the counselor. That was my senior year. I had talks like that with my teachers that were like, ridiculous. Like you'll never make it. It is.
Yes.
You're never going to be a teacher because look at your handwriting. And I never did
Wow.
anything. I never went above them. I never went
Right.
and I just took it and I just added to the shame. And at this point, I'm almost an adult, so it just added to the grief.
Wow.
So
That's so hard. That's
it
so
was
hard.
so bad. It was so bad.
Right. And you did good, though. You advocated for yourself. And certainly
Mhm.
colleges have come a long way. And hopefully,
Yes,
but we are teaching our students. And you can see them at these ages that Linda's working with. These are the ages where those turning points I've seen with my students, they start to happen, especially in the young boys, because they get to this place where they really can just go through the motions of tutoring or schoolwork or whatever, and mentally they're kind of
Yes.
still playing that video game, or that computer game, and they're thinking about something else. And you have to say to them, get what you can from the 45 minutes to an hour that we have together. This is for you. This is for you. And so how can I help you? And what do you need from me that I'm not giving to you? And are you drinking water? Are you resting? So, I mean, that's huge that you're doing that with your kids. I love
Well,
it.
and that, and I don't want to say the sad point is, I mean, that's just another layer that we're adding on team building. And now we're addressing that whole part of the foundation that needs to be laid in order for their best learning to go on. So
Right.
moving forward, I did ask our health teacher, would she like to get involved in this? So what's the best way for them
that's
to start
wonderful.
to notice? First, I think the first part of taking this on is just to notice, right? I noticed
Yes.
how I felt before I drank the water, and now I'm noticing how I feel. Yes, I had to go and pee a lot, but I'm noticing that my brain seems to
Creating
be a
waste.
little more clear, right?
Yes. And that will stop. That will, your body will be able to absorb that water, and that won't continue at that level. Yeah.
And then regarding my food consumption, I'm noticing I'm eating everything white, right? Everything's white. There's no green in there. And so that brings me to, could we possibly learn how to write a grant? Now, this has been, I must say it out loud, because maybe I will take this huge step. And that would be to learn how to write a grant, get people to fund. I mean, is this a big, crazy dream of mine to physically change my room to accommodate a place where we have a station where they make their green drinks? What do you want in your green drink? What do you like most? What's the ingredients? What's the recipe? Can we sell the recipe? Write about your recipe.
I
right?
love that. I got a juicer for Christmas. I am on target with you, Linda.
Okay.
I love it.
So the juicer's just one thing. Oh my goodness. Would someone pay for a stove and outfit my room is huge. So could you outfit my room to have a stove in there? Because we need to learn how to advocate for ourselves regarding our food. This is a quick way
It's
for you to
like
prep a little
public school
protein
meets
meal.
homeschool. Susan's the homeschool teacher of this dyslexic child. You teach special ed, so you're integrating into public school what you're already doing at homeschool, and it sounds like a very safe, healthy atmosphere, if you ask me. It's not
Right,
the
but they're
sterile,
learning.
rigid.
They're learning how
pushing the
to read
academics.
and write through it. Right? They're learning how to read and write through it. So now we have that foundation laid. Now we have to do the activities-based learning. So what are your interests, right? Now we're done with that part of the day. Now let's go off and break out into groups and learn through what your interests are. So yeah, in summation, there's a lot of change that needs to happen. And
yeah, you're not the teacher. You're not the direct. This is how we're going to learn. I'm not going to follow you. I'm going to follow what the curriculum says. Of course, you got to keep with the scope and sequence. It's there for a reason now. But you're this more nurturing teacher, caring teacher, because the needs aren't possibly being met at home. That, what was the trauma there
Yeah.
that caused that? I mean, I was just upset thinking
Yes,
about
but
kids having this trauma
you're
themselves is what happened
right.
there.
But you're so wise to let the kids know, hey, it's time to partner with your parents. Right. At these
Yeah.
ages, it's time to partner with your parents. Mom and dad are working and they're
Yeah.
doing that for you and for your family, and to help them realize they, they can say that they're a team with their parents to get to bed on time, and to do those things at home that are good for themselves as well. Um, and so that's exciting. I think change is exciting, especially the ideas that you're talking about that are so positive and empowering
And I
for
think
students.
thank you, Susan. And I think they're in line with, I'm not so much of a proponent for resolutions, but you want to start fresh with the new year, right? And so let's celebrate what we've done well so far, but moving forward, this is what we're hoping to do.
Yeah.
And even just writing letters to their parents, letting them know that they're noticing that this is happening, and can we team up on, can you hold me accountable, mom and dad, for staying up late? I feel like as much as it's going to be so hard for me, I'm like, maybe you really do need to take my game from me. That would be like such a miracle if that happened. But also, this is making me think about one particular student who not only has difficulty with having a lot of siblings in a small home, they're fighting with the neighbors. The neighbors are really upset with them, and he's very upset that the neighbors are upset with them. So, as a team, as a school family, we care about him. So maybe we need to help him write a letter to the neighbors and just simply apologize. What can I do better? Or maybe I just kind of need you to understand that I have little sisters and we have hardwood floors and we don't have money for carpeting. And so you're going to hear my feet, you're going to hear that. Maybe you could put headphones on. I don't know, but
So it
I
sounds
want you to
perfect.
understand.
Yeah. For the neurodiverse learner, you're making something applicable. So something with feelings and future that they'll understand, and they're using their literacy skills that you're helping them develop into small groups. So it all
Right.
makes sense. And you're solving a problem, and we're huge problem solvers, right?
And I can
Neurodivergent.
see him ruminating, sitting there in his little head, like
Yeah.
he's worried, and it's like your needs and your feelings matter.
Mhm.
Right. And
Right.
so I'm just trying to get them, we have our morning check-in, and that I need them to understand this is not just a thing like, oh, I did it. No, did you do it? Did you really tell me how you were feeling? Or are you constantly putting your stick in, I'm happy? No, I want to know exactly how you're feeling, and we'll drop everything,
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
know?
feelings lead to
So
what emotions you may have. So I know you talk to them about anger and shame, because I've coached you on talking about and leading to what's anger and shame are, and then the feelings that come from it. If you're angry, you're frustrated, mad, upset, anxious. If you've got shame, you're feeling shameful at that moment. You've got shut down, you're feeling sad, you're feeling maybe depressed. So I know you're getting those feelings out of anger and shame, and that we're talking about those, and that's the
we don't have
purpose
a
of
lot of
getting to feelings.
outbursts. We don't have a lot of outbursts, but yeah, the
Well, it
shame.
could be just not even that.
Can I
It could
ask
be
you a
just
question?
small stemming things, small stemming.
Yes.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be complete outbursts. That's when those emotions have gotten too big for them that are overwhelming.
Okay.
Yeah, so
That's
I'm
good
talking
to know.
about like when you see them start to talk real fast, hyperlexia. You see them, that's anger. When you see them start to write real fast, but they're not normally a fast writer. When you see them start to start to do this, that's anger. When you see them start to shut down, that is shame. That's the parasympathetic state. So I know you're working on that.
Yeah, every day I try.
Yeah.
So
Well, it
it
is a
takes
lot.
a village, and so I want to invite, in summation, I want to ask for help. Like, I know there's other teachers out there that are in the same shoes as mine. I know there's homeschool parents who are doing it right. I want to hear and ask for help. I'm humble enough to know that this is a work in progress. And I know that there's so much more that I need to be doing in that classroom. But can we agree that slow and steady wins the race, and giving yourself grace to be able to move forward and accept what is and is not, and what's good right now? What can we do right now so that we're all moving forward and all of our needs are being met as best we can? So I am going to reach out in my special ed groups and ask, who has a self-contained classroom, who has population of children similar to mine, and what are you doing to address the foundation? So yes, team building, got it, check. But moving forward, the sleep deprivation, and it just seems like there's a little bit of
well, that's two things about a teacher that I admire. So I admire you, Linda. That's one, always willing to learn, being open to learn. And that means your ego is not in that classroom. That means you're there to serve and honor your kids. So I appreciate that a lot. Second, your humbleness to say, I don't know it all. I mean, that means that your kids can see your humbleness, and you're not saying to them, I know it all. I'm the dictator. I know everything.
right. So then there's that condemnation. I said, and you better, and you, no,
yeah,
that doesn't work.
So that's all, again, not being attached to your ego in the classroom. That's what Maria Montessori teaches her teachers about. It's not about us. It's about them and serving them and honoring them.
Yeah, I guess that just naturally comes because I know how I felt when I disappointed a teacher. I felt like I was never going to be able to get back in.
Yeah, our listeners need to know you're neurodiverse also. You got neurodiversity also. And neurodivergency is still out there on debate, but neurodiversity, yes. That you were diagnosed with ADHD and dyslexia. And so
and what else?
You said it created
processing disorder.
Processing disorder. Visual and auditory, but auditory was diagnosed. Visual was
and
recognized
dysgraphia
later.
more than ever recently, by the way. I have my iPad magic pen. Oh my goodness, it's just terrible. Pull down, push up and around, and it still looks sloppy.
Yeah. So we're thankful for these
okay.
neurodiversities because it made us humble that we could teach the kids and serve them. A lot of other teachers never had to struggle with learning and academics themselves, and so they don't seem to understand. But I'm so glad that, you pushed through to become the educator. That was the thing. My teachers and professors saw, man, I know I got this letter from the LD department, but your handwriting is horrendous. You're never going to be a teacher, But of course, I didn't listen to them because I had a higher purpose that they didn't know about, but I did. And luckily, my mom pushing me through.
Yeah.
So, So it makes you understand your children again, but that doesn't mean that teachers that didn't have a struggle with neurodiversity can't get their ego out of the equation, because they can. And a lot of them do. I'm just saying, be aware. Is what I'm doing intentional for the kids? Is it for their social emotional? Is it for their cognitive? Is it for their intellectual? Is it for their physical? Go through the domains and make sure that those needs are being met through, not to build you up, but to serve and honor the child.
So let me just, before we close, say that I feel like I don't know how we can empower, especially teachers in the public school, to have that confidence. Like a lot of times people would say, well, so long as you have a rationale behind what you're doing, you're okay. But there's still that little sense of fear that if they come in and my lesson plan says that, and I'm not on point, then I'm going to be condemned, right?
Yes.
The fear of condemnation, that I'm going to be pointed out. So there goes the ego. So if you could just set aside, they have a job. Their job is to point out what you're doing wrong. which we're hoping changes over time, that actually they're coming in to catch you doing the right thing, and they want to be a team member with you, and they want to join in the lesson with you and support you, right? And then maybe give you a little ounce of wisdom and next steps. But generally speaking, I'm there by your side, and I'm
Yeah.
your biggest
So Laurel and I
cheerleader,
are
right?
working with another organization on creating a horizontal platform framework, not a vertical one. So
Yes, that would
yeah,
be so amazing to see
yeah.
that change.
And then
But
all
if
lessons should be based off not curriculum saying this is where you need to be in this certain part of the year, but looking at, again, scope and sequence and meeting each child's individual needs based off that scope and sequence. That
and then
wherever
just
they are.
trusting, yeah,
Mhm.
just trusting, just somehow to infuse trust, that I trust you, and then you're going to need to trust me, that if I see you in a place that it just seems to me that you're not where you need to be humble enough to be able to have a conversation, adult to adult. Let's just tweak and redirect and get back on, and it's all good. Like, let that go, and what can we do moving forward for your class? But if we could just leave today's discussion with teachers feeling confident enough to just, like you said, is so long as you're putting your students' needs first, right? And you reflect on your day and you have that reflective anecdotal notes that you're looking at, like, I can't go on without this foundation being built. I can't go on because this happened. We have to take the whole day to address that particular situation, but we need to fix it before we move on. So yeah, so thank you, listeners, for taking the time to listen to our conversation. Susan Bedingfield and Trisha Cook and Laurel, not Baloney, Deloney.
Delaney.
She helped me with the baloney Deloney.
Laurel, you want to say
and
anything from today? We just left you out. You're good.
yeah. Yeah, we're just listening. We feel led, and each week we like to sum up what we discussed the week before and what's showing up in our lives as educators. And we're just here to serve. And we thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Gotta take y'all out.